Thanks for stopping in. I've got 20 tips for you guys on how to beat the heat at Walt Disney World. I went on a trip at the end of May this year. Not really an ideal time to go because it is already getting super hot in Florida, but the way circumstances worked out, it was the only time that I could get down there, and I was determined to try everything and anything I could to stay cool. Number 20, make sure you bring sunglasses. This seems pretty obvious. I mean, anybody that's out in hot weather and sunny weather, you're gonna have your sunglasses on. Got these Minnie Mouse ones. Go with my hat. Even a fun pair are great to wear in the parks. You get a lot of people smiling and it just makes things more fun. Your picture's more fun. It's great. Okay, tip number 19 is on a hot day, you're gonna feel like having some ice cream or like a frozen treat of some sort. They are all over the parks and very popular on hot days. But what I found out is it is so hot that it melts so quickly that you're pretty much just eating like soup, ice cream soup. So I suggest to maybe stay clear of the ice cream unless you can get yourself into somewhere where it's air conditioned and you will enjoy it more. Number 18, I suggest making yourself a cooling spray. There's a lot of recipes, sort of things, and instructions on how to make them online. It's usually like a peppermint essential oil is what is the main ingredient to cause the cooling effect. It usually has a little bit of witch hazel in it and some aloe, and you just spritz a little bit on you and you just like feel refreshed and cooled off, and it smells great. Number 17, let's talk loose ice. So this year the parks have banned loose ice typically people would be bringing them in coolers. And why they did this was because it was very difficult for security to look through the cooler with all the loose ice, so they'd have to like move it around and try and see what people had packed in their cooler to make sure they weren't bringing in anything that wasn't allowed in the parks. So what you can do, because it is nice to have that ice, and at the hotels, if you're staying on property, there's only ice machines. Unless you're staying at a higher end resort where you have like a full-on fridge where you could maybe get some freezer packs, it's going to be difficult. So in most cases you're working with loose ice from the hotels. And what you can do, bring yourself some Ziploc bags and fill those up with the ice. So as long as security can pull out the ice in the bag, look in to see what you have packed, you're good to go. Number 16, have a water park day. This is a pretty common suggestion. This is helpful too when you have maybe like one day or 2 days in like the whole week that you're there or the whole time you're there on your trip that's going to be extra hot, and the other days you can save for the parks. Because it's nice to just be at the water park, be in the water. Water park day is always a good option. Number 15, if you are getting a rental car on your vacation, I suggest not picking, if you can pick your car, I suggest not getting one with a sunroof. I found that if it had a sunroof, most of the time it was just letting in more of the sunlight and heating up the car even hotter than not. Also, I would avoid leather seats. I find that the cloth seats stayed a little more cooler in the hot weather, so that helped a lot. I think most cars are going to have air conditioning. I don't know if I need to point that out. You want to make sure that the car has air conditioning. I'm pretty sure every rental in the state will have it because, come on, it's Florida. But the other thing that I found funny is that I read a tip somewhere that you, while you're in the park, put out a cookie sheet with some cookie dough on it and see if it cooks the cookies while you're in the park. And you come out and you have yourself a free snack. Number 14, avoid hot lands. What I mean by sections of the park that have very little shade and places to get away from the heat. Prime example would be Toy Story Land. Right now they don't have very many trees or shady spots. The restaurant there is outside. They do have plans to bring a new barbecue restaurant to the land that will be indoors, so that will be nice when that opens. Also, I I thought I heard that they opened up a store at the end of the Toy Story Midway Mania ride, so that might be a possibility of somewhere where you can get some air conditioning. I think the new bathrooms that are in the land have good air conditioning in them if you just need something to just cool you off quickly while you're over in that land. But overall, I would suggest leaving them to either early in the morning or late at night. My number 13 tip is I found wearing a magic band. It's such a thick band, and when it's really hot, it's uncomfortable, I find. Like, you get sweaty under there, and it was just, I don't know, I didn't like it. So what I suggested is that sometimes I would just keep it like this and looped around something. Also, you can get the keychains where this little piece pops out and it goes in a little keychain type thing that you can clip onto your bag or your belt or somewhere where you don't have to actually have it around your wrist and sweating. Number 12 tip is you might want to bring along some what I would call body wipes. They do make them specifically for, like, say if you're camping or something. They're like disposable type towels that you can get in a little package that you can kind of wash yourself off with. Like, sometimes it's just nice to kind of freshen up and like wipe your face off and, you know, areas to feel a little fresher, and if you don't get a chance to go back to the hotel and freshen up. Number 11, make sure you pack light, airy, and comfortable clothes. Having a lot of light clothing options will help you stay comfortable. Number 10, this only made it to number 10 because I find this actually is a very popular item, but I didn't find that it gave me that much relief. It helps. But anyway, let's talk fans. So, you see everybody in the park that they have those water fans where it's like a water bottle with like a fan on it and you can squirt the water, fan dries off the water, and it does help. So having the moisture and the fan together, and I've seen them put ice in with the water, so you can spray yourself with really cold water, use the fan to evaporate it and take away the heat. It's great. It does work to some degree. But for my personal preference, I find that they're a pain in the butt to carry around. Maybe if you have like a stroller and stuff and you have somewhere to hang it, somewhere to keep it, where you don't have to actually carry it on your person, it makes it a lot easier and more handy to have. But as just like one person, two people trying to scoot around the park, it really didn't work out that great. So what you can do though is, I mean, you can just get yourself a little fan to cool yourself off. The only thing I find with this is that you're using your manpower to do this, and when you're super, super hot, you do not feel like moving anything, even though you're getting some relief from a fan. Next option I found was this. What it is that you just push the button down and it'll make the fan go. So it's kind of a cool option. Now the one that I liked the best was this battery operated fan that I just got off online. It has 2 blades on it, which is super great to have 2 blades. There's 2 settings, so you can go a little faster if you want to. Also, it's just the softer blade, so it's safe, and it just folds back up into itself. Also, it has a little port on it so that you can charge it and not have to worry about having batteries in it, but then again, you just have to remember to plug it in every night so that you have it ready to go for the next day. Alright, number 9 is bring a hat. It's nice sometimes to have just that little bit of coverage and to protect you from the sun. What you can do too is bring a bigger hat. I bought this hat while we were there as well. It's like it's supposed to be a lifeguard hat, I believe they call it. And it has a cute little Mickey Surf Shop logo on the front. It's lined underneath. What's cool about this one is that it covers both like all the way around, right? So it covers the back of your neck, which is nice, as well as it's a pretty light hat for carrying it around even though it's big. And I found that I actually seen a lot of people in the parks wearing these, so they were very popular. Also, another option that I would put under this same category is if you bring a small umbrella, and you can get them specifically like a sun blocking umbrella, but I think anything will probably help you unless it's really, really see-through. I got this little one at Walmart. It does actually have a Minnie and Mickey on the inside. I'm not going to open it because it's hard to get it back inside, but it's nice to have your own little option if you just have no shade around and can't get out of the sun. Also, you may even find like a bench somewhere that's actually empty you can sit in, but it's not shaded. You can pull out your umbrella and now you got a place out of the sun. Okay, so number 8, this is a pretty simple one. I'm just gonna put it out there that you do want to make sure you have sunscreen. The sun is very hot, very strong, so having sunscreen with you and on you, put it on before you leave the room. There is I've seen sunscreen sprays that are supposed to have a cooling effect. I've tried them. They kind of do at first. I think it's a little bit of a gimmick. It's definitely a must-have pretty much anytime you go to Florida, right? Number 7 tip for you is go resort hopping. For those of you that have done this before, you get it. Those of you that haven't, you're missing out, because the Disney resorts, you can access them from the parks very easily in most cases, and the resorts are awesome, and you'll find neat things there, things for free. The seating in there, they have air conditioning, they have comfy seating in their lobbies and around the resorts. They even have water stations, like they'll have a little carafe out with some water, you can just help yourself. They have, most of them are going to have their quick service areas where you can refill, like if you have a refillable mug, you can go and refill your mug at their soda stations, as well as get water in any container to fill up. There's also, so one little insider tip that I thought was really fun is some of the resorts that have a exercise room, if you poke your head in there, there's usually a little fridge that has cold towels in it. And if you just pop in there, grab a cold towel, oh, it's like awesome. So check that out if you're at one of the resorts. Number 6, have you ever been there when it's warm? You will probably see other people experience this. If you don't yourself, look down at people's ankles, because you're gonna see the infamous Disney rash, heat rash, walking rash. I'm not really sure exactly what you want to call it, but I have experienced it, especially when it's really warm. And it mostly seems to happen around the ankles, because I find for 2 reasons that the concrete itself gives off heat. Like, it makes it that much more hotter around your ankles and your feet. And it causes you to sweat there. And that is the key to preventing this heat rash, is to stop it before it gets too bad. And what you want to do is, my favorite thing is that I use this Gold Bond powder. I put this on, and this helps to it has some cooling and it has absorbing power to help with the sweating, because what is happening is your body is releasing the sweat, and your sweat has salt in it, and the salt starts to evaporate with the sweat, and it causes irritation to the skin, and then it causes like a burning, and it's really uncomfortable. Ultimately, I think it just looks really bad too. Like, it looks like you're like really in pain because it gets really red. The other thing you can do is during the day, if you can, when you go into the washrooms, I would just take a little bit of the paper towels, wet it down, and just kind of clean my ankles a little bit. Like, just wipe off the sweat, wipe off the salt, so that it's not irritating your skin. And it helps. I find that prevention was totally key. But there was times where you just get doing stuff. You get going and you don't realize that how much you've probably sweated there and need to clean it up. But because you're just go, 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 right? So by the end of the day, you look down and you're like, oh my God, it's like, it's there. It happened. Overnight, bring yourself some like diaper rash cream. That sounds weird, but like that is what I found, like a zinc type cream, worked, like it's really thick type cream that's meant for rashes, and I would put it on right before I went to bed overnight, and then the next day it was usually cleared it up quite a bit. It helped, so something to think about. Number 5, I always bring a pair of shoes to change. Whether I start out with my sandals or I start out with my running shoes, I then vice versa bring them the other pair with me, because I find I like to wear running shoes as far as more comfortable and walking in the parks, but after a while when it's super hot, wearing, you know, your socks and your runners and the concrete, like I mentioned, gets so hot, your feet are boiling. And in the middle of the day when it is so super hot, you need a break from it. So if you can't get into somewhere to cool off, it was really nice to just change shoes. Change into sandals to get some air flowing, or vice versa, get some socks on and some shoes on just to maybe like switch it up. It was a lifesaver for sure. Number 4, I found that this was one of the top things that made being there in the extreme heat super bearable, was taking a break midday. You hear this talked about a lot on Disney tips, and it especially comes into play when it's super hot out. Because when it gets to the middle of the day, when it is so hot, you really don't feel like doing anything. Like, you get worn out so quickly in the morning from the heat, then you can't last the whole day because you're just totally beat and exhausted from it. So it's really nice, especially if you're staying on property, to take a moment to go back to your resort, have lunch, go for a swim, even like swimming at that point, because it was so hot. It was like, oh, the pool is so warm. I don't really feel like going in there. But I was surprised, because the thing is that not necessarily when you were in the pool, it was kind of soupy and bath water like and not very refreshing. But when you got out of the pool, it felt great, because then you're all wet and it just would cool you off and you could just sit out, and it really was relaxing and helped refresh you, as well as once you've taken your break, you've recharged your batteries and you can go back at night when hopefully it's cooled off a little bit now that the sun's gone down. Number 3, hit as much air-conditioned areas as you can. My first go-to is usually trying to walk through the stores, so like Main Street, majority of the stores, definitely on the one side, it's all connected and you can just walk through the stores to get to where you're going, and you get that nice break of air conditioning plus get to where you were going. So it helps a lot in that regard. Another thing is, if you can get into rides or shows that have like a quick wait time, because you just want to be careful that you're not like waiting in line for very long in the heat, because that kind of defeats the purpose. So there's things like, you know, the People Mover, you can get into that and it's moving around. Usually like Mickey's PhilharMagic, or there's ones that are like indoor shows and things like that that are air conditioned that don't take too much time to wait to get into. Also, obviously, if you have your Fast Pass, and then you can get into things a little quicker. Another thing, obviously, is going into restaurants. They're pretty much all air conditioned. You can even just go in and sit down and just take a break inside instead of sitting outside. Also, another thing is, actually, the newer bathrooms I found had amazing air conditioning. They probably all are equipped with air conditioning, but I find some of the older bathrooms didn't have as much of a like the newer bathrooms is like you walk in and it's just like a wall of cold, which was amazing when it was hot out. The buses are usually pretty well air conditioned. In most cases, your get a little too cold on buses, but when it's super hot out, it is amazing to walk onto a really cold bus, especially after the long walk to get out to to the waiting area. So Disney buses are a place to cool off as well. My last point on this is I just want to point out that sometimes the exit to rides are a fun place to get away from the heat. One example is Space Mountain. The ride itself exits out into a gift shop, like most rides do at Disney, but they have a couple benches in their store, as well as at the back, they have a couple of stools and like little side tables along the wall that you can sit at, and there is plugs that you can charge your devices. So that was awesome. Air conditioning, plugs, somewhere to sit. Great place to go. Number 2, free water. The biggest thing you can do is keep hydrated, and Disney is there to help you. You can get free cups of water pretty much from any quick service. I prefer to go to ones that have the soda fountain, because they usually, if they use the water feature on their fountain, it's filtered water and it tastes great. It doesn't have that like Florida water taste. And on that note, what you can do is bring like some flavor drops or some flavor packages to put in the water if you're really picky about, you know, you're not one for just plain water and you want a little bit of flavor. That's something you can do, is bring that along. Also, you can bring in a bottle of water, that is allowed. And then as you go throughout the day, you can refill it yourself. They do have like traditional water fountains that you can go out to, but they also are starting to install bottle refill stations. So for the bottle refill stations, it's nice to bring your own water bottle with you, and these stations are now popping up at the new Skyliner stations, in Pandora, I believe in the new, obviously, new Star Wars land. They have some Cosmic Rays. Magic Kingdom has installed them as well. I like to use a stainless steel water bottle, because this one I like because it's just tiny, that it's not like super heavy to take in my bag, and it just fits like enough water and easy to get. It's open wide so you can put ice in there. It doesn't sweat because it's double walled, and you can just, it has a little flip top, and I can push this up to lock it so that I can just throw it in my bag and not worry about it leaking. So this one has been really handy, and I liked having this one as well. Easy to clean. It was really great. What I also want to mention is Disney has moved into pretty much all paper straws. This is great. They're eliminating plastics. I get it. But the paper straws do not last, and they get soggy and they're weird. So if you like drinking from a straw, I highly recommend bringing your own reusable straw. Another great place to get water is to go to one of the Starbucks. You can just stand in line, go up, ask for whatever size cup you want, filled with water, no charge, put your name on it, and they'll call you when it's ready. Not only do you want to keep hydrated with water, electrolytes are key too. Because you're sweating so much in this heat, water helps, but you also need your electrolytes to keep up your energy. Little story, I was on the bus going back to our resort, and there was a group of younger girls, and one of them kind of started to pass out. And when she came to, they started talking and whatever, and they realized she hadn't eaten anything. So food itself will give you electrolytes, because it's mostly salt and stuff that will satisfy that part, because you are expelling a lot of salt when you sweat. Because they'll be like, oh, drank a lot of water, but still felt fainty and not well, because you do still want to like either eat something Or you can also do the flavorings like these. I think you can get squirts that have more, that they're built to be like electrolytes in them. The other thing you can do is if you have your refillable mug, pretty much all the fountains that I've seen where you could refill your mug, or even from the quick service places to buy a drink, obviously, is that they have Powerade in the Disney parks. So that's something that you can think about having if you're not feeling very well and you just don't feel like eating. Try getting yourself a Powerade. My number one tip for staying cool is a cooling towel. I have been there in the past where I've seen people using these. Disney sells these at the parks. Obviously they're going to be a little pricey, so I would suggest buying one beforehand. I got like a 4-pack from Amazon of these, and I like that it comes in its own little bag with a clip so that you can put it away when you have it wet. These were totally the best thing that I found to keep cool, and they worked amazing. So, and what I like about this one, so what is this one? This is Yourself brand. Not sponsored, but I really like the pattern that it has. So it's like this star pattern instead of just some boring plain color. Also really like the shape of this one. Nice and long, that it was easy to kind of just wrap around, or you can put it over your head. You can do anything. I even found it very helpful to put like around my shoulders, especially if you had a tank top on. So then you have like your shoulders exposed, and you just wrap this around, and it would just totally like cool you down, and was the best thing ever. Now, how these work. What you do is you wet the towel. You squeeze out majority of the water. You want to keep a little bit in there because it's kind of depending on how warm it is. So if it's super, super hot, you can leave a little bit more water in these because it'll evaporate pretty quickly. So you have to kind of feel it out and see. You'll get to know it because you'll be doing it a lot. So once you get it all wet and that you've wrung out, like so that it's not dripping, you take the towel and you go like this. You snap it. And that kind of like activates the cooling power somehow. Not sure exactly how that works, but I think it's just helping it evaporate itself a little bit and just cooling off the temperature. So it really does help to snap the towel the way it does say that in the instructions. What's good is the thing that, like, once you put it on and you've had it on for a while, it will get a little warm from you. So what you can do is just take it off, give it another snap, put it back on, and it feels cool again. Another bonus thing with this is that if you use like ice cold water, that if you get like a cup of ice water from one of the quick service places and cool your towel off with that, very nice. Also, when you have this wet and you have it on and you go into somewhere where there's air conditioning, it's like super cold. Like I even had a time where I'm wandering around in a store where it's air conditioned and I had to take it off. Like it got like too cold having this on. But this thing was great. The only other tip that I would say for a cooling towel is that I did see some other families that had a cooling towel that was sort of more like a chamois type material. It's like a thicker kind of foam, which seemed really cumbersome in terms of storing it. So when it was wet and soft, it was pretty much the same as this, but the thing is that once it dried out, it like was like a stiff board, and like you try to fold it up and it was like really bulky. But this one is nice. This fabric is great because then it just folds down into something quite small that you can fit in your bag. You could even fit it in your pocket really if you had to. Definitely get yourself a cooling towel. And there's my top 20 tips for you to stay cool while you're at Walt Disney World. Hey, any day's a good day at Walt Disney World, but when it's super hot, it is a struggle to get through the day. So put some of these things into action and you will have a better trip, I promise. Bye for now.